When fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross, unknown.
It's so dumb, it's genius. No, it's just really dumb. From the Glass Onion.
Devil is amongst us. Stay back, boy. This calls for divine intervention. I kick ass for the Lord.
Welcome to Heresy and Hearsay, a podcast to reclaim faith in the context of political discussion. I'm Reverend Barney, and you can follow me on most social medias at Seth Roth II. Heresy and Hearsay has a Patreon site where you can find us there at patreon.com/heresy and hearsay, where you can find our past shows and ways to help us. Just $2 a month goes a long way to help us make this humble show. And with me today, my co-host, the Benoit Blanc of this show, September.
Hi, this is September, also known as 9 of 12, and you can follow me on 9of12.com. That's NINEOF12.com. You can find all my podcasts and all my stuff there. Please follow this show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and any podcast catcher. Just look for Heresy and Hearsay. Please like, share, follow, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. Also, give us a review. That really helps other people find us. And you can find our first volume of this podcast on YouTube and on Patreon. Now, first, let's cover some news before we get into today's topic.
So the first thing that I want to bring up is that Kamala Harris is raking in the dough. She is, as of from Politico a couple of days ago, she's already raised more than $200 million in her first week as the presumptive candidate. It's presumptive right now, so we have to say it that way. Mm-hmm. And that the Democratic Super PAC's Future Forward says that it has received $150 million in commitments after Biden has bowed out. So obviously, she has electrified the base, at least, if not people who normally wouldn't be interested in politics right now. I will say this, and this may be controversial, and I apologize in advance. She is doing what Hillary Clinton hoped was going to be done, is getting the backing of so many people, because she would be the first woman president. She'd also be she wouldn't be the first black president, but she'd be the first president of East Asian descent as well, because her mother is Indian and her father is Jamaican. And it's an interesting thought process.
It's fine.
Okay. Sorry. Technical problem for just a second. I apologize, everybody. But they are, she's doing extremely well. She's energized the base. There'll be another story we'll talk about later, but there's been a lot of these Zoom calls that are breaking records of how many people are being on the Zoom calls and stuff like that, and raising money hand over fist in these Zoom calls.
I think it's a combination of things.
Mm-hmm.
I think it brought a base of people who, kind of vote regularly but don't necessarily donate, that are re-energized in a way because they feel like the party did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
That Biden stepping aside, like, even I was a little like, dude, you said one term. Like, please keep that promise. I love you. But the polls are looking like you're not best. And you said you'd pass the torch. And she is so much younger, mm-hmm. which needs to also be taken into account, along with her ethnicity, bringing back the Obama voters. The Democratic Party often takes the black vote for granted.
Right.
And them coming out for Obama was demographically, that's where things like even North Carolina was blue then. Just the one time, not even for his reelection. So it's a surge situation in a couple of different ways. I've seen I got in a little Facebook altercation with a friend. I mean, not an altercation, but he was taking it really personally. And we had to de-escalate. But someone was posting like, well, isn't it funny? Like, she didn't get any delegates or anything, and then or win any primaries, and now she's like the most popular more popular than the most popular president ever. And I'm like, no, that's not weird, because she dropped out of the primary race, so she didn't get any primary votes. Like, the voting didn't happen, and you don't get delegates until after the voting happens. Like, none of that is weird if you know how it works. He's like, I know how it works. And I get really mad, and I'm like, okay, but he's like, show me where she won a primary delegate. So I'm like, you're asking me to show you where she won a race she wasn't in. Like, you're being inflammatory, and it's like, well, there's nothing wrong with saying she didn't win if she wasn't in the race. I'm like, all right, well, we need to change the way we're discussing this. And I was like, it's not that weird. It looks wild. It's a lot of money, but you can compare it to, nobody knew who Obama was unless you were a real hardcore Politico and had seen him speak at that convention previously.
Right.
And then the wild surge, because he was young, he was fresh. Like, people want that. Like,
yes.
Voters who are disillusioned, everyone, our generation and younger, want someone they can relate to. And that kind of swing in the polls isn't... I'm not surprised by it. I just see those percentages as, the public opinion is fickle.
It is. Well, and you're right. She's fresh. She's young. She's
and a
vibrant.
Woman, right after Roe v. Wade got overturned.
Right. And she also isn't afraid to laugh. She isn't afraid to be herself. The whole 9 yards. And that's what Obama brought. That's why he energized so much of the youth vote, is because he was young and energetic. And Kamala, VP Harris is the same way, is that she is young and vibrant and she's fresh, and she looks like America, because America isn't black and white. We, in a lot of respects, we are mixed in a lot of respects. So she also brings that. She also brings the immigrant, because both of her parents are immigrants. I have heard. I'm not going to get into that. That'll be later on in our conversations later when it starts blowing up. But there are
blended families.
Yeah, and blended families.
Like, she represents so many different demos.
She does. But I will say this, that I already hear the rumblings of birtherism already starting, because neither of her parents were born here in America. So whatever. Yeah, we're starting that. We're going. Well, that's something we'll be discussing. That's something we'll be discussing in the main topic. Mm-hmm. Next news. This one, both of us wanted to talk about this one. So why don't you introduce it?
Holy crap! So, Mr. Lord Dampnut went to a panel conference of the National Association of Black Journalists, and was absurd and gross. He was so combative. He, of course, tried to throw that back at them, because, there was this, okay, so you did list of horrible things that were racist, and what do you have to say to that? Oh my gosh, you don't even say hello? You're just fake news like ABC. Like, holy crap. So he did this weird thing where he started talking about Kamala and questioning her racial identity. And they're like, well, she always just said she was Indian and she wasn't black, and now she's claiming black just to get your vote. Like, what the holy hell? I mean, she's both, and that's a thing. But she went to an historically black university. Like that's a deep claiming and owning and living in the space.
Yeah, she went to Howard, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, and I loved how he claimed that she didn't even pass the bar exam. How the fuck do you become an AG of an entire state if you're not a lawyer first?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was.
It's just like, I respect either one, but obviously she doesn't because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became black. Dude! Like, what did he think? I think he thought, and here's the thing, racists think this way. You can't keep thinking he's not a racist, because racists do think that way and have used this historically, trying to turn one group against another. We've seen it work. We've seen it work, especially in the black and Hispanic populations. We've seen this bullshit work.
Or even the black and the Asian populations.
Yeah.
How they've pit them against each other. So yeah,
and other marginalized populations. We've seen it work with California and specific votes. Where they promoted anti-LGBT stuff in the Hispanic community and the black community because the votes were there, and culturally there's one issue voters that they could get, and they did. So he went to this conference and he was trying to do that, trying to turn like black folks against her as if she wasn't. Oh, yeah.
And I love the claim. I love how he tripled down on the claim that he has done more for black people than even Abraham Lincoln and Lyndon Johnson. And I was like, I watched this, and so the question. So what started this off? I mean, she asked a very legitimate question. It's like some of those people in the Republican Party are claiming that Kamala Harris is a DEI choice, and it's like, do you denounce that? And then he was like, and then he just went off on that first reporter. I mean, it was just, and the language he used, the dog whistles he used about being nasty and everything else is a very dog whistly thing about black women and everything else. And these were three black women on the stage, and just went off on her. You know, it's like, and then he asked her to define what a DEI, was, and I'm like, what the, it's like, it's in the title, diversity, equity, inclusion.
Yeah.
It's like,
I cannot. And his black jobs bullshit. That's another trying to turn other populations. He's trying to turn. Oh, I can't. Like.
Well, it was, like
other immigrant populations against black populations when he's going after immigrants and talking about deporting. Like, I don't know how anyone takes this guy seriously. It occurs to me, looking at this article from NBC I was looking at, she was also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, which is an historically black organization. It's a sorority. And that's another, from an insider's view, from someone who's done campaign finance and stuff, that's where a pile of donations came from up front real quick. Because I know I've been in a position in a campaign where you are researching low-hanging fruit to hit up for donations, and sororities and fraternities are one of the first things you look up and hit them up. Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to give that little insider thing on what we talked about before with her fundraising.
Right. And it was rough. It was horrible. So my next one that I posted was so a few days ago there was a Zoom call for White Dudes for Harris, and it had some famous people there, Mark Hamill. I'm like, all right. And then it had the dude, and I'm like, all right. And then it J.J. Abrams. Like, I'm okay with his directing. Rise of Skywalker, I have questions. But for the, and it had a lot of, ordinary people there, and they raised almost $4 million. The guy who started it and everything else had a Twitter account, and that Twitter account, it has been, I will say this, it has been restored, but for 48 hours, it was gone. It was just disappeared. And with no, and the violation, and it claimed that it was that it was a violation for avoiding suspension. So in other words, it was suspended for avoiding suspension, even though it hadn't been suspended initially. So, it's like, okay, that sounds like two things. It sounds like it was probably bombed, report bombed. And also it was, and it was, Elon didn't care. And they had tried to contact him through the 48 hours, finally got it restored with a, oh, we're sorry kind of situation. But it was one of those things, it's like, oh, that's scary that, Elon would be willing to do that. I can only imagine what he is doing with the algorithms when it comes to, because you can mess with the algorithms. You can't, and him playing around with AI, though the quote that you did at the beginning of this show is based off of a movie that I absolutely loved. I don't know. Have you seen The Glass Onion?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So you know that the character is loosely based off of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was apropos partly because of that. And it's just, he's an idiot that takes other people's stuff. It's like I feel he personally designed the Cybertruck himself. He's the one that drew up the Cybertruck. And that's why it looks like the monstrosity that tries to kill people and eat your hands and tries to murder you, because he is an idiot. But he just has a lot of money. And so he's also been playing with the AI and everything else. And I'm afraid of what he's doing with the algorithm with Twitter. I know Twitter is a hellscape and everything else. I get that. But unfortunately, Gail Simone posts there a lot, and I love Gail Simone, and I can't leave Gail Simone.
I try to stay away from it as much as possible. I go post an occasional thing there because of people I know that are still there and look for stuff, but it's a hellhole. I mean, look at how this happened. A bunch of white supremacist bots that they let just crawl around.
Right.
Reddit just lodged a bunch of complaints. It wasn't even real people. All the accounts they suspend and get rid of on there, but he lets that be a thing strong enough that it got this account suspended that was raising millions of dollars. That's not a free speech warrior. That's the opposite.
Yes, it is, and that's always been one of my things.
It feels like that's why he bought it, honestly. He bought it in like the peak of people noticing Trump engaging with all these white supremacists and then going to start his own platform.
Well, it wasn't just that. He also bought it because he was tired of everybody making fun of him on Twitter. There's a lot of
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so but all right. So we have an update. We have an update on the VP.
It's a man baby club.
He is a man. They are all give an idiot a bunch of money and see how stupid they become. Yeah, that's how I feel. So we have an update on the VP sweepstakes, and one person has decided to step out.
Yeah.
That would, and
unfortunately,
I kind of said, last show I kind of mentioned this as a possibility that this may be a reason why he's not picked. But our governor of North Carolina, Governor Cooper, decided to pull out, basically because how the law works in North Carolina is when the when the governor leaves, they're voted separately, and we have a Republican lieutenant governor. And when the governor leaves the state, the lieutenant governor is automatically in charge. And Governor Cooper was just terrified, because this has happened in other states with similar laws, where the lieutenant governor then goes completely rogue and crazy and starts doing all kinds of crazy stuff, while the governor is, not passing laws per se, but doing executive orders and whatever the case may be. And because the lieutenant governor, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Do you remember his name?
What?
He's running, the lieutenant governor of North Carolina. What's his name? I can't remember.
Mark Robinson.
Robinson, yes, and he is running for governor, and do not vote for this man. Is Looney Tunes. He is MAGA to the extreme, and and while he may be a black man, he is everything. He is a horrible person as far as his views on LGBTQ rights, especially transgender rights, and everything else. And I could only imagine what kind of executive orders he would sign, or whatever, while Cooper is away. So Cooper decided best thing to do is not do that, is not leave the state. And that's kind of a shame. I think he would have made a good pick, but
because they're crazy. They will. Like the super majority we have here, only needing a simple majority for stuff, if the governor is not within the state line, they would immediately call sessions and charge in and do crazy stuff. They passed horrible, horrible things here. Like the women's right to know exists here because of these jerks.
Right, and because we had someone flip, and then they redrew her district so that she would be a Republican. There's a lot of people in this state mad at her.
So there was another funny thing about VP that happened this week.
Okay.
Where Joe Manchin announced that he would not serve as VP under Kamala Harris. It's like, yeah, and I won't be running a 100-yard dash in the Olympics. Nobody asked you, you fucking dino. Like,
what? Yeah.
Well, he's not even a dino anymore. Like, you couldn't be picked. Didn't he switch parties?
He switched to independent.
Yeah.
And then he said he was going to switch back so he could try to get electoral vote, try to get delegates.
Oh yeah, of course. Shit, I am so mortified that he turned out the way he did. Because when he was early on, he talked the talk. I introduced him at an event.
So did Cinema. Here's the thing. So did Cinema.
Oh.
Cinema talked the talk too. And that Manchin, I was like, I had my dubiousness about, because he was connected to the coal industry up there. So I was like, But Cinema, I was like, that made me angry. That one was one of those. It's like, and I think she's dropped out of the race for Senate, because she was going to have to run as a third party, and she was going, because as a Democrat she was going to get trounced. She's realizing she can't run as a third party. So she's both of them.
Yeah,
both of them caused a lot of problems. But Manchin,
they support whoever writes the checks. Yep.
And so that was tough. Anyways, but so that is the VP. Yeah. Manchin. I wouldn't serve as her VP. Well, you weren't asked, now were you?
Right.
Did
Who
they
asked
get a dossier on you? I don't think so. I have 2 middle fingers for you there, Manchin, because that's not going to happen.
You see yourself on a list. No one else saw you on a list. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you weren't even in the consideration. Bernie Sanders was close to consideration, and he is old as Biden, so that wasn't going to happen anyways. Like, no. Hillary Clinton would have been closer to it than you. No, wasn't going to happen. No. That would almost send everybody. I don't know. Thinking about that for just a half a second, having Clinton as the VP pick, That would send everybody, all the Republicans' hair on fire. It won't happen because she's just got too much baggage. Someone mentioned the fact that unlike Clinton, there's not 40 years of 20 or 30 years of the Republican Party tearing down Kamala Harris. There is not that.
Me and my husband were bantering Chelsea around, though, at the beginning.
That's right.
She doesn't have enough political experience, but, it was a nice thought.
Yes. So, all right. Before we get on to the main topic of today's show, Brother Bowie, will you lead us in a word of prayer?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
So, today we are talking about Agenda 47. Agenda 47 is the dumbed down version of Project 2025. We will be discussing Project 2025 in the next couple of weeks. What I mean is it's going to probably take just 2 weeks to cover it all because I've been reading through it and it's causing nothing but migraines literally because it's just so dense. And there's a lot of it. So it's probably going to take us 2 weeks to cover the big topics on it. And there's a lot of small topics too. But Agenda 47 is what Donald Trump came out with, and it has similar points to Project 2025. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. One of them is kind of political or semi-political. Well, they're all political, but one of them is more political and everything else, and one of them is more of a indoctrination technique, and I wanted to hit on that as far as the two big things that really just screamed at me. And the first one is that basically Trump wants to dismantle the deep state. And what does that mean? Well, while he was president, he tried to enact an executive order to where he basically career individuals that work in the government, those people that do the day-to-day stuff, that gathers the information, that do the tests, that go through the studies, all of that kind of stuff. The people that know what they're doing is he wants to be able to turn any job that is in the government into a political appointee type job. That is problematic in a lot of respects because at that point, once it becomes that, then he wants to fill it with sycophants, with people who are on his same page versus experts in their fields. And we're not just talking about the DOJ. We're also talking about the CDC, everything else. So, people like Dr. Fauci would have been considered a political appointee, would have been fired, and they would have had somebody else that would have been more than happy to tell us all to take ivermectin and to drink bleach, so because that's what he was trying to end this, the coronavirus, because it was making him look bad, and so he would have done whatever it took to and he would have gotten whoever he needed to get in there to agree with his thought process so that, we could have ended the coronavirus quicker. And it wouldn't have happened because they wouldn't have had people who are experts. So that is one. The second one is he wants to basically defund the DOJ. He wants to defund the FBI. He wants to, because these people that went after him because he, what's the word I want to use, is a criminal. And so they went after him and decided to, file criminal charges against a criminal. And so now he is personally offended by them, and therefore he wants to get rid of them. I mean, this started back with Comey, back with the FBI, who had his problems. Thanks to he was one of the reasons Hillary didn't win. But firing Comey with no cause, that was part of it, and he wants to make it even more. He wants to do things with the plot. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, the hypocrisy and going against what, like, him and the Republican Party have been for years with this, like, activist judges. Whenever something isn't ruled in their favor, it's an activist judge. Yet they are saying, oh, but we want to do is appoint not just a whole bunch of judges. We want to appoint a ton of bureaucracy
mm-hmm.
to just create this loyalty. And that's their way of dismantling deep state. Like, oh, it's insane. It's so insane.
And and one of the things that I read up is like that they're upset about how parents and Christians are being targeted by the DOJ and labeled domestic terrorists. And I posted some links, and they'll be in the show notes and everything else, about how parents threatened the lives of school boards because they didn't like the fact that they were being taught actual history, which we'll get to. Yeah.
But there's stuff about term limits and making it easier to fire federal employees. That's
right.
That's just akin to being like union busters. Just sorry. You should fire more people. How are people buying into this? Is like, this is what you have for a president. Like, it should be easier to fire everybody. Holy crap. Like, look at employment where it is now. It's so high, and people are actually making more. But just all over the government, though, should just be able to fire anybody and appoint everybody. That is so fascist. Like,
it is. It's very much so. It is extremely fascist, because what it does is the Republican Party as a whole, and Donald Trump specifically, but the Republican Party as a whole has a fear of expertise. This is something that scientists have talked about for decades, about how there is this, and it's grown. We have watched it grow. I won't give an example, and we're probably going to go long again today this week. That's fine, because Daniel rambles. But back in the 80s, and you remember this, back in the 80s, there was this thing called the ozone layer, and there was a hole in it. And we're like, oh, God, there's a hole in the ozone layer. We need to fix it, or we're all going to die. There was science, and this was in the 80s. And there were scientists, and there were all these people saying, well, this is what we need to do. We need to get rid of all of this aerosol stuff that we've been spraying in the air, and we'll fix the ozone layer. Because if we get rid of it, it'll be fine. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of the girls in high school were a bit upset that the Aquanet wasn't working quite as well as it used to. But it's still, and guys, because trust me, we all had mohawks, and we needed a lot of Aquanet too. But it was one of those situations where we changed how we did aerosols. And as soon as we did that, the ozone started to repair itself. And this was a Republican president that was in the office that said, yes, let's do that. But we have over time watched the destruction of expertise, and to the point where a senator will step outside because it happened to be winter and snowing, and it's like, this is a snowball. Global warming isn't real. Like, what the fuck? No, that's not what global warming is about anyways, or climate change is about anyways. You're still going to get snow. It's just going to be worse. That's the point. And so, but, as far as climate change and all of this other stuff, science.
Okay, yeah.
Specific.
So, you're really rambling.
I'm sorry. Thank you for pulling me in.
Can we rein it into a couple of things while we're on this first link that you posted that are fit with the show we're supposed to be doing, and talk about the Trump administration, the Trump campaign, manipulating religious groups to take their side on these kind of wild,
Yes.
out there policies to lock down our nation by saying things like, quote, the Biden administration has weaponized the FBI and DOJ to target conservatives, Christians, and their political enemies. They say that in their platform. Yeah. It's not true. They use as a source an FBI memo that was rescinded, where they were investigating some domestic terrorist possibilities because of some really right-wing traditional Catholics. There were bombings and stuff, and violent acts happening. And it was under this ideology, and the FBI was like trying to get some surveillance on some of these groups, and it didn't even they weren't able to do it. It got it didn't meet the domestic terror definition.
Right. But
regardless, they're using that kind of fear tactic, and the conservative Christians and you white people are being oppressed thing is such a problem, and it's empowering the worst people, and it's fooling some good people. And this misuse, just like pitting racial groups against each other, and race isn't even like a human thing. This pitting religious groups against each other is dangerous, and a lot of it has an underlying racism that they're using, something that's just been part of our culture in this country for a couple hundred years.
Right, and that's always been my problem, especially so the big thing that I have been hammering home, and I have mentioned this multiple times, and I will continue to mention this because it needs to be driven home, is that even Jesus said you need to question those people that come in my name, because they will be false prophets. And there are so many people that use the cloak, and that's why I keep using that quote. Every so often I'll bring up the quote about how fascism comes to America, is because they will use the cloak of Christianity and everything else to get those who are not literate in their own faith to buy into anything, because they're not willing to question, because they have been taught never to question their religious leaders, when they should always question their religious leaders and know where their true motivations lie. Because you should be able to, and that goes with your political, that goes with politics too, especially if someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene cloaks herself in as a Christian and someone who is religious. Or Trump claims Christianity. He can't even quote a Bible verse. He's not a Christian. But he will use Christians because he thinks they're gullible, because he thinks that, they are easy to manipulate, because a lot of them were especially the extreme, the evangelical or the extreme right Christians had only one thing they wanted, and that was to get rid of abortion, get rid of Roe v. Wade. Trump's done that. Now they want an entire abortion ban, and then they'll go after contraceptives, and they're already going after IVF, and then they'll go after, without the stuff being codified into law, they're going to try to get a nationwide abortion ban. They will say they're not, but this is what the religious right wants, or at least the religious leaders who give Trump money want, is that, because this is a thing that they can earn money off of, because it's all about money. It's not about the Christian faith. It is not about Christian ideology. It is about how we can use Christianity to make our pocket, to fill our pockets with idiots' money, because even people like Copeland and Joel Osteen, they are not They have studied the Bible and have found, and they are manipulating the Bible so that they can line their pockets. That's all they do. And this is what the Republican Party has done. Do I believe that Mike Johnson is truly a Christian? Yes. Or he feels in his heart he's a Christian? I am not. Yes. Do I think that he has been misled, and that the teachings that he has been taught, and the fact that he is not critical of his own faith, has led him down to a very bad path as far as what Christianity truly is? Yes. And these reforms that they want to do in the name of Christianity has nothing to do with Christianity. If you, as a Christian, quote unquote, go and state that you are going to murder someone because they disagree with you, you have failed on every aspect of Christianity. And you should be labeled such. Not only a terrorist, if you fall into that category, but also just a horrible person. Because I think Jesus would have looked at you and went, that's not what I said. So to then say that because you go to church and you on Sundays and maybe even Wednesdays, and then on Thursday you go to a school board meeting and shout obscenities and threaten people with legitimate threats. I'm not, people get upset, and I will understand that. But when you're doing legitimate threats, when you are making legitimate threats as a Christian, you're not being a Christian. And this is only fueling that. This is only allowing them to do to say, oh, but I'm right because this guy who claims to be a Christian who isn't believes me that I am doing Christianity correctly, which I'm not. Then at that point, that's on you. That's you're failing in your Christianity, and you're allowing this to manipulate you, and it shouldn't be the case. Shall we get to the second?
Sure.
Should we get to? Is that a little bit? I apologize.
I mean, third, we kind of talked about the second one. Well, we talked about the first one, but
yeah, we kind of did. We did. It's basically talking about the debates in schools and everything else, and basically, and this it's both two. The 3 points kind of blend together because they want to start at what's known as the American Academy, which is basically a propaganda machine. They also want to basically they want to restart, and they also want to restart the Project 1776, which was a counter to the Project 1640. Was that the right number? It was another. Basically, what it was trying to tell the true history of America with all its blemishes and everything, because if we are to know America and understand America as it is, we need to understand it through all of its warts and everything. We don't sugarcoat it. I keep saying this over and over again. I have a history book called The People's History of the United States. I feel everybody should at least read that once, to get a different understanding of how history is from a different perspective.
And
not from
if you're dreading a slog of a read, it's not, but there's also a graphic novel version. It's fantastic.
There is, and also the audiobook version is quite nice too.
Can we talk?
Is quite.
That's nice. Can we talk about the nasty hidden stuff in what's supposed to be his schools, great schools, leading to great jobs? Because it's reversing gender affirming care is buried in there. Parental rights being, notifying the parents about everything and anything, which can be dangerous for abused kids. They're calling hospital health care that does gender affirming care chemical or physical mutilation.
Right.
They are planning to
and they're threatening federal funds if they give that care to youth, to minors.
And if you're dreading a slog of a read, it's not, but there's also a graphic novel version. It's fantastic.
To minors. And they're threatening federal funds if they give that care to youth, to minors. And they're threatening federal funds if they give that care to youth, to minors. And they're threatening federal funds if they give that care to youth, to minors.
Right. They want to make Title IX prohibit participation in sports for transgender youth. They're asking Congress to establish that the only genders recognized by the United States governments are male and female, and they are determined at birth. He put this, just like, put that in your, this is my plan for schools. That's a sneaky, nasty little thing to do, to just disavow an entire section of the population and put it in your education policy. Ew.
Well, and he also wants to promote the positive education of the nuclear family, of roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrate rather than erasing things that make men and women different and unique. So what that says to me, that LGBTQ families that, like Pete Buttigieg and his husband raising 2 children, that they would not be celebrated because they are not mothers and fathers, and they are not a nuclear family kind of situation.
They also want to abolish tenure for teachers, and make it so people vote for principals.
We already have to vote for our school board, and some of those are a little sketchy. And here's the thing with that, and this, that a lot of money from outside sources go into those school boards because that's where they start getting footholds in states, as school boards and city councils and stuff like that. And so there's been a lot of talk about Koch brother money going into school board elections to sway the school boards, because once you get the school boards to your side doing these kind of policies, then you can get city councils, and then you can get
and they've been infiltrating and succeeding in taking over school boards. And it's just like a deeper dive on that, going right to school administrators. He's also planning on creating a body to certify teachers who embrace patriotic values and support capitalized American way of life.
Right.
Gee, this sounds familiar. This sounds... Oh, no. It's like the Hitler Youth, right? Like...
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like knowledge and skill, not CRT and gender indoctrination. What are you doing? What is
right? They lay out what they're doing. They specifically have their Project 1776 and what's considered patriotic, and that's what you're allowed to teach, is their version of history. Anyway, I'm getting a headache.
I'm sorry. We'll move on. But yeah, the love of country and everything else, and then one of the other things is that really Trump also wants to end the leftist takeover of the school disciplinary and juvenile system. He will order the Department of Justice and Education to overhaul federal standards in disciplining minors, to get violent thugs out of the children's classrooms so that they can get the professional help they needed. When troubled youths are out of control, the consequences must be swift, certain, and strong. So basically, he wants to go back to where we just kick out, instead of trying to help students who are either from troubled backgrounds or whatever the case may be. Instead of trying to help them in the school, he basically wants to kick them out, shunt them out of schools, and put them into the juvie system. That's what he wants to do.
Well, there's one section of this I don't completely disagree with, is like internships and work experience, and wanting to get that into our schools, high schools anyway. I would like to see more of that.
Go ahead. I would like to see more of that, as long as it's paid. I don't believe in unpaid internships.
No, it's like secure internships, part-time work.
Yeah.
Because we had, like, in New York, we had a BOCES program, and I would like to see elected, the elected stuff we can take in high school be something that counts as work experience. Because you get out of school and it's like, I have a 20-year-old son who can't get a job. They all want experience. Well, he needs to have a job so he can get the experience. Like,
Right.
Having that incorporated into our education would be good. Although I don't know about this work-study program, and with all their other agenda, I don't know if I trust their plan where it's not going to just be child labor, but we'll see.
Yeah. That's my thing, especially when you've got like the governor of Arkansas, where she basically allowed kids to work in meatpacking plants. So that's where my fear comes into being as well, and I understand that. But as far as like especially tech jobs and stuff like that, or even non-tech jobs, there is nothing wrong with wanting to be a plumber. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be do quote unquote manual labor jobs. That was one of the things I liked, and I think that should be, there should be vocational help in vocational school offered at the high school level as well, to get you prepared for a vocational job if that's what you are drawn to. School choice, of course, that's basically trying to defund schools and area and stuff like that. That's basically that. One of them that also stuck out in my brain when I saw this is President Trump, that's former President Trump, will support school districts that allow highly trained teachers to carry concealed weapons at school to greatly reduce the threat of school shootings.
Yeah.
Not
that
the
doesn't
teachers
work, stupid.
Yeah, first off, that doesn't work. And secondly, no. It's like the teachers already have enough to do without also having to be, commandos. It's like, no.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. His American Academy stuff is just, I'm moving on to that. He uses, like, the word savages to refer to people in the first sentence.
Yep. Like, yeah, and you mentioned it before, but this is like Nazi Germany. This is, indoctrination kind of situation, where they are where they are trying to make higher education seem vilified, because it's not teaching our values, or it's not teaching true patriotism, or true morals, true Christian quote unquote morals, because we are a Christian nation. We're not, and our history should be always sanitized. When I went,
no wokeness allowed. It says no wokeness allowed. Everybody go to sleep and let us take over the country.
Yeah. When I was in high school, I was taught about the Civil War as it was the War of Northern Aggression. And this was not irony. This was not a joke. This is how the teacher taught me. And that's not how it is. It's one of those things where they want to go back to that. They want to go back to these things that are not truthful, that are not actual history. You can't do revisionary history if you want to be a better nation. If you want to be a dictator and everybody, follow, the teachings of you, that's what you're doing. And that's what this is. And
this isn't going to happen.
Or jihadism.
The American Academy isn't going to happen. It's absurd. Their implementation announcement is absurd. They're going to take billions and billions of dollars, because, he's doing it. They're going to tax, fine, and sue excessively large private university endowments, and then use that money to endow the new institution called the American Academy. So everybody can get this free and non-political education. No. That's never going to work. It's never going to fly. They're already taxed. I don't know how you think you're going to fine them or sue. Endowments are like legacy things. They're donations
Mm-hmm.
by citizens to these universities, and you think you're just gonna take it all. And suing would take forever, and boy, you would have to fill every court with a bunch of idiots to have that work. This is never the plan to fund it won't happen. So unless he decides to run up the debt, which normally Republicans do, sorry to be so partisan about it, but it's just facts and it's trackable. Mm-hmm. Despite what they tell you, every time Republicans in office, the debt increases by way more.
Trump added a third of our national debt in just 4 years on his watch. A third.
Oh, it was just COVID.
All of our
debt. Look
No.
at the spending, folks. Follow the money.
Yeah. It had nothing to do with. It was well before COVID even started that he was adding this.
Yeah.
And and it just got worse because of COVID. Because you have to spend to save it. When it's something like that, you do have to spend, and I understand that, and I'm forgiving with that. Biden did the exact same thing. I think he should have done more, but that's another story. But we needed that money. And as soon as the Republicans took over Congress, or took over the House of Representatives, then they started feigning, we can't spend all this kind of money, where people and kids were getting out of poverty with the child tax credit and everything else. And then they're going to expect this kind of stuff to happen, where they're going to spend all of this money, or it would cost them more money to sue to get this money to begin with. And then you would have to, you're correct, you would have to fill the entire court system with judge cannons to even get this to go through. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And again, the teachings of it alone, and they're claiming that it would be the equivalent to a bachelor's degree, which means it would be nothing, because it's not an actual bachelor's degree. Unless it says it's going to give you a bachelor's degree, what's the point in this, other than to indoctrinate people and to make people think their nation is something it isn't?
Mm-hmm.
I believe America is a great country, but I also know that America has a lot of mistakes in it, and we've done a lot of bad things too. So you can't gloss over that. It's like Germany doesn't gloss, and it's against the law for them to gloss over the bad stuff that they did in the 30s and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do that. We can't just gloss over, the 200 years of slavery, or the Jim Crow laws, just as examples. People need to know what we did to servicemen, down in Tuskegee, to try to cure diseases and stuff like that, and how we used, African American, black people as guinea pigs. That's something that is a shame we need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Black Wall Street, the coup in Williamsburg, not Wilmington, here in North Carolina. The only successful coup in this nation was racially motivated, and in our state. We need to know these things so we can not do them again and be better people. And then, there's other things he talks about in this thing as well. He talks about immigration a bit, which is so anti-Christian. I can't anymore. I've had it up to here with, how do you deport? He believes there's 20 million. Keith Olbermann brought this up as first you'd have to round them up and put them in places. What kind of places? These would be camps, I guess. What kind of camps? Because there would be a lot of people concentrated in these areas. What kind of these would be concentration camps, but instead of it being Jewish people, it would be people of Hispanic descent, or people from South America or Mexico or wherever. He's basically wanting to instead of it being Jewish people, he's wanting to do a version of Nazi Germany for immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that and it's like, why can't people just see that? Just step back a step and look and like, because you can't do it instantaneously. You'd have to get, unless you're just going to start chartering planes as soon as you capture somebody and not even give them a day in court and just throw them on a plane like that movie in Born in East LA, where they just throw you in the back of a truck and then dump you into Mexico. I'm sure Mexico would appreciate that as well, especially considering their new president doesn't like Trump at all, but that's, we can't do that without really being horrible. And the world stage would be very angry at us and would come at us. And sanctions aren't good for any nation. Can you imagine this and what would happen to America if we suddenly started getting sanctioned by the EU and all those other countries because we are committing war crimes? And it is completely against Christian faith anyways. We're supposed to treat foreigners, we're supposed to help them. It's also our laws that if they're seeking asylum, we're supposed to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And and you had talked about this earlier, where pitting races against each other. At that conference, Trump talked about how these immigrants are stealing black jobs. Because he's trying to pit Hispanic population against the black population.
Mm-hmm.
There's some thoughts that I've posted that will be in the notes from other articles saying just how much this would cost, how detrimental it would be for our nation, how bad it is as far as overall thought processing, and just how evil a lot of this is. And I'll post those links of other individuals besides ourselves on that. So, okay. Yeah. And the next 2 weeks are going to be even rougher because Project 2025 is even worse.
It's just more detailed. They have so much in common.
Hey, they do. It's just a lot more detailed.
Well, and scarier because the people involved in it are actually and already have been working on getting the people in place to enact it as soon as he's president. Mm-hmm. All those appointees, a lot of them are going to be the people who've been on Project 2025. I've seen people defending it as like, but that's not his agenda. His is just the Cliff Notes, though.
Yeah.
And those are his people.
Yeah, well, Mark, Stephen Miller was one of the ones that helped wrote Project 2025. Mm-hmm. And Stephen Miller is his right hand, scary ghoul. So but we will look. It may take us 2 weeks. It may take us one. It depends on because I need to do some more reading and see if we're just going to do the Cliff Note, if it's going to Cliff Note it because of what we just did, or if we need to go into a lot more detail. But that'll be something that we will, it'll either be, but we will at least talk about it next week.
I got another poll, by the way, speaking of, because I know you're going to say
okay.
We want to probably talk about the VP pick next week. I got another poll from Democrats United. Who would you like to see on the ticket with Kamala Harris? So, and it looks like I just got it, as the show was starting. So it's Cooper's out of it and stuff. The list I have here is Governor Tim Walz, Governor Josh Shapiro, Governor Andy Beshear is listed on the poll twice for some reason. Senator Mark Kelly, Senator Pete Buttigieg, and Governor Gretchen Whitmer. So it's not, I find it interesting, it's not in alphabetical order. I find it interesting that Whitmer's at the bottom. And I don't know what happened with Beshear being in this twice. I wonder if they it was just a oopsie. Somebody didn't test
Could
the code.
yeah, could it have been that they were trying to put in the governor of Illinois there instead, possibly? Is he still being talked about?
I don't know. I don't see it on a list.
Okay.
It could be. Or it could be where they took Cooper out and it just duplicated that. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, but hopefully the following week we'll be able to talk. Actually, she may have them next week, but we're going to do what we can and talk about the VP pick. We should know by then, and then so I took a boat out on the water and I found floating there a copy of Hillbilly Eulogy, so I picked it up. And then I saw an audio cassette with it on audio, so I grabbed that while I was, on the ocean. And so I am going through that right now, and I want to discuss in more detail about our couch and dolphin loving friend JD Vance in the next few weeks as well, and go over Hillbilly Eulogy and see where there's a disconnect, because for someone who they claim to have a love or an understanding of people from Appalachia, he became a venture capitalist and basically did everything and became the person that destroyed working communities in Appalachia. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see where that all forms. So
it just occurred to me we should start dead naming him because he's changed his name a couple times.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't help.
No.
All right.
No. But so let's go and let's go into the carrot and stick at this point.
Me. What's up, Doc?
So you want to give us what the carrot is today?
Oh, sure. Today, the Biden administration secured the release of 3 Americans and 1 American green card holder from Russia. There's a great statement that it was put out everywhere. You posted Twitter. But, the big carrot to Biden here for me is, look at him doing the job. Can he do the job? Yes, he can do the job. Maybe, campaigning's a little rough and Kamala's going to kick ass, but going forward, but he's going to just keep doing the job. The diplomacy, something that has been worked on for a long time, something that, detainees in Russia? Are you kidding? Trump was on his knees for Putin and didn't get these hostages released. So, years and years of diplomatic relations around the world and relationships, apparently, that could be a thing with getting shit done. And Biden's getting it done. And he's saying, I'm not going to stop working until we get all of our hostages back. So today, he secured the return of Paul Whelan, Evan Gerskovich, Elsu Kurmasheva, and Vladimir Kara-Murza. Sorry if I butchered any names.
That's perfectly fine. And at the press conference where he was talking about this, a reporter asked, just like, well, Trump said that he could get it done without having to give up anything. And then Biden leaned back over because he was walking off, and Biden leaned back over like, well, why didn't he do it while he was president? And then he just walked off.
Yeah. And it's obvious because he couldn't deal with, this was like a big diplomatic effort with other countries. And Biden always fostered those relationships. Trump would go to these meetings and tell everybody to go to hell or just not go. He was never going to be able to do this. This is they negotiated the release of 16 people from Russia, 5 Germans and 7 Russian citizens who were political prisoners in their own country. This was working with several countries in a big, diplomatic effort and getting it done. This is something Trump's not capable of. He doesn't. This America First code and my way or the highway will never make us safer around the world.
No.
So, yay.
And yeah. All right. Now the stick.
Don't you blaspheme in here. Don't you blaspheme in here.
So I don't know if many people saw this or not, but the right wing lost their bloody minds. First, so during the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, there was a tableau that was done that if you only thought of yourself and thought that you were the only people that mattered, that it would be
or didn't know any history,
or didn't know any history, correct?
Or mythology.
That this was going to be that this was a display of the Last Supper. It was not. It was a display of. It was a display of Dionysus. For those who don't know, Dionysus is a Greek god. Wait, where did the Olympics come from? Greece? And it's Dionysus who is the god of wine and of feast and frivolity and all this kind of stuff.
The guy dancing around covered in grapes. I don't know why you would think that was at the Last Supper. What the frack? Just because there's a table. And
there's wine there. But the right wing lost their minds. Thought it was a blasphemy depiction of the Last Supper because it had drag queens on it. It's like it was nothing to do with the Last Supper. First off, second off, they kept screaming on Twitter. It was trending Sodom and Gomorrah, and I was like, all right, I gotta look up and why Sodom and Gomorrah is trending on Twitter during the Olympics.
They constantly use that story wrong.
They do. We have broken that story down in our first volume a couple of times, and it is still frustrating. I went off on several Newsmax and OAN contributors and correspondents or whatever because they were all posting the same thing, and it's like I've had it up to my eyeballs with you guys, faux Christians.
There were some amazing preachers and Baptist ministers and stuff that came out though, explaining that wasn't what that was, and that and good things about it. I saw some really great stuff from the good Christians. Frustrating thing again about the damn Sodom and Gomorrah. You know what is actually horribly against the Bible and the lesson that story actually teaches? Mass deportation.
Yes. You see how this all ties together. Because it is not about homosexuality. It never has been, never will be. It is about how they were treating foreign people and their greed and their avarice. It had nothing to do with homosexuality. If they were women, they would have been treated the exact same way. It was the fact that they were foreigners, and you're supposed to treat. The Old Testament talks about this a whole bunch, and so does Jesus. Talk about how you should treat the foreigners and how they should be treated with respect and given hospitality. And Sodom and Gomorrah was a greedy, avarice place that did everything against foreigners. You're supposed to offer them, a place to stay or a meal or something like that. You're supposed to treat them well, because these are people that are not at their place anymore for whatever reason, and you're supposed to treat them with respect. And Sodom and Gomorrah is about that. And God was like, I'm done with that. I'm done with all of these people being just horrible human beings.
And, another lesson for good Christians out there, if you don't know, if you've got some Islamophobia hanging around because the right wing's pushing it on you and saying that's what you should do, the Quran says to treat Christians as your brethren and as your family because we worship the same God. In case you didn't know.
Yes. We are all, the Jewish faith, the Christian faith, and the Islamic faith are based in the same pantheon of God. They just call them different names. And the big thing is that we should treat each other with respect, and we should be good to each other. Mm-hmm. That is their whole.
The whole golden rule stuff, you don't need religion for that.
Right.
I go to a thing sometimes in New York. It's a Dionysia. That's my flavor.
But I was like, I was screaming at them, do you even Bible, bro? Have you even read your Bible? Do you even know what it actually is about?
Nope, all they can see is sodomy. Gee, I wonder if their focus is somewhere it shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's like,
Oh, according to them.
yeah, they have maybe they have some questions that they're not willing to answer in their own lives. I'm not saying that. I'm just, it's a possibility, but yeah, it's like it was about Dionysus, and yeah, they had drag queens. They also had a heavy metal band singing while a headless Marie Antoinette was singing. Nobody went nuts
There
about
was
that.
some really cool stuff in there.
Yeah.
Oh, there were people going nuts about that too, but they also didn't understand the song choice and the band choice, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, whatever. Look, I'm going to say this.
It's the professionally outraged.
Yes, but in general, I'm going to say this. Christians, it's not always about you. It may never even be about you. So step back, take a deep breath, and look again. Because that is one of the big takeaways of the stick, is that, it wasn't even close about you, and you made it about you. Stop it. And celebrate, it's the Olympics. We're supposed to be celebrating all these wonderful athletes, all this wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
Stop making it about you.
Yeah.
So.
And other cultures, like, I saw some really cool stuff on a soccer field with traditional cultures meeting and doing dances and chants. It was really awesome.
One of my favorite things I love to do is off topic half a second, and then we'll finish up. One of the things I love to do is I love to sit down and I love to watch the New Zealand rugby team and their hakas. Mm-hmm. They are so powerful to me. I have no idea what they're about, but the celebration of their culture is just so moving to me.
Yeah.
To watch them do this, and people and like other teams are like, yeah, let's watch this, because it's intimidating, but it's also wonderful because it's a celebration of who they are and their spirit and their ethnicities, and it's just great. And so, yeah, we should celebrate that kind of stuff. We shouldn't be afraid of it. So, anyways, Christians, it's not always about you, and you think it's about you. Step back and take a look. And stop using Sodom and Gomorrah as an excuse for gayness, because it's not. Stop it. All right. Thank you for joining Heresy and Hearsay today. I'm Reverend Barty, who's lost his bloody mind. You can follow me on all the socials at Seth Roth II. You can find the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and any podcast. Just Google us.
And I'm September. You can follow me on my website, NINEOF12, that's 9of12.com, and connect to all of my content. Please check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/Heresy and Hearsay, where $2 a month can really help us keep going. Thanks for listening today, and bless your hearts.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.